The world thought the US-backed Kabul government would hold out for months, if not years, against the Taliban, and felt that Russian forces would overrun Ukraine in a few weeks. Both of these panned out exactly in the opposite manner. Top U.S. intelligence officials were questioned regarding this in a Senate Armed Services hearing. While there are many factors playing out, there is one crucial aspect that has come to light which is having a decisive effect. In this video, Defense Updates reports on what the U.S. intelligence community thinks is the key reason for quick capitulation in Afghanistan, but dogged resistance in Ukraine. Let's get started. This video is sponsored by NordVPN. NordVPN is a premium VPN service available for macOS, iOS, Windows, and Android with more than 5,400 servers in 60 countries. But why use a VPN or virtual private network? VPN is an encrypted tunnel. A VPN can protect your privacy, which is threatened by many factors like data logging by internet service providers. It can also help you access contents which are blocked based on geolocation. Why NordVPN? Its servers are fast and has zero log policy. Not only this, NordVPN has taken one step further and recently introduced a new feature, threat protection. Threat protection prevents malware from getting on users' devices and blocks trackers, intrusive and malicious ads, and harmful websites. Use the link in the description to get up to 71% off the 2-year plan plus threat protection for no extra cost. At the checkout, use the code DEFENSE to get an extra month for free. A reporter asked U.S. President Joe Biden in July whether a Taliban takeover of Afghanistan was inevitable. "No, it is not," the president replied. He had pointed out the presence of 300,000 well-equipped Afghan security personnel. But within about 2 weeks, the Afghan military lost control of much of the country, often without putting up a fight, and allowed the Taliban to take over. Near the end, provincial capitals fell with unbelievable speed. On August 25th, Taliban fighters marched into Kabul. While it was known that there will be a Taliban takeover, the sheer speed of the collapse of the Western-backed and trained army stunned the world. The $83 billion U.S. effort to train and equip the Afghan military went in vain. In Afghanistan, nobody at the top showed leadership. On the 15th of August, the then-president Ashraf Ghani left Afghanistan with his wife and 2 close aides to Uzbekistan as the Taliban captured Kabul. The Arg, the presidential palace, was captured a few hours later by the group. A key aspect of any modern-day combat is gaining air superiority by knocking out opposing air forces and disabling ground-based air defenses. This paves the way for armored and infantry formations to operate freely. Since Russia has a 10-to-1 advantage in aircraft, it was expected that it will quickly dominate the skies, and its ground forces would roll over Ukrainian defenders. Russia also has surface-to-surface systems like Iskander to knock out high-value targets like command and control centers. On the face of it, the situation looked bleak for Ukraine, and many had predicted that Kyiv would fall in a few days. But the fact is that Ukrainians have been able to repel the attack on the capital and halted the Russian offensive in many areas. A defiant President Volodymyr Zelensky had refused a U.S. offer to move to a more secure location away from the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv. A senior American intelligence official with direct knowledge of the conversation quoted the president as saying that the fight is here and that he needed anti-tank ammunition, not a ride. U.S. intelligence officials were questioned Tuesday about why they misjudge the durability of governments in both Afghanistan and Ukraine, and whether they need to reform how intelligence agencies assess a foreign military's will to fight. What we missed was the will to fight of the Ukrainians, and we also missed that in Afghanistan, said Senator Angus King, an independent from Maine, at a hearing of the Senate Armed Services Committee. He added, "I realize will to fight is a lot harder to assess than number of tanks or volume of ammunition or something, but I hope the intelligence community is doing some soul-searching about how to better get a handle on that question." Avril Haines, the U.S. Director of National Intelligence, said that will to fight and capacity to fight in tandem were difficult to predict. The National Intelligence Council, a group of advisors that reviews the agencies as a whole, is studying the issue, she said. The two of them are issues that are, as you indicated, quite challenging to provide effective analysis on, Haines told King, and we're looking at different methodologies for doing so. The U.S. might have done more before the invasion to assist Zelensky had lawmakers believed Kyiv had more of a chance, King said. On the other hand, the U.S. was forced to negotiate with the Taliban to evacuate thousands of American citizens and Afghan allies due to unexpected quick defeat of Afghan forces. Viewers may note that an attack at the Kabul airport killed 13 U.S. troops and at least 170 Afghan civilians. So there is more to it than the number of troops, weapons, etc. The fact is that Afghan security forces and a huge percentage of civilians simply gave up too easily. No amount of military hardware could have helped in that case. On the other hand, Ukrainians from all walks of life have been supporting their country's loyal and motivated soldiers in whatever way possible. Civilian groups are using commercial drones to identify Russian targets and pass them to the military. The efforts have prevented a swift Russian takeover, and Ukrainians are now launching a counteroffensive too. Clearly, the difference in the willingness to fight has a very large impact on how the situation shapes up. It remains to be seen how the intelligence community and military planners take this into account in future conflicts.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this. Hit the like button if you find the video interesting, and kindly provide your feedback in the comment section. This will help us improve.